So we're starting on Mesechת Megillah, Daf Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph, at the beginning of the Mishnah. Right over here, it says Hakoreh et HaMegillah. Somebody that reads the Megillah, Omed v'Yoshev, he could stand or he could sit. Next topic, Kara echad, Kar'ua shnaim. If one person can read it or two people can read it, Yatz'u, they get the mitzvah. Next topic, Makom shenahagu levarech yivarech. A place where they had the minhag to make the biracha on the Megillah, they should make the biracha. V'shelo levarech, but if their minhag is not to make the biracha, lo yivarech, they should not make the biracha. Now we're going to start talking about Kriyat Torah. Basheni v'chamishi b'Shabbat b'mincha. Right? So Basheni on Monday, b'chamishi on Thursday, and b'Shabbat b'mincha, and Shabbat for mincha. Kor'in shlosha, we read 3 aliyot. Ein pochatin mehen ve'ein mosifin aleihem. We don't do less, pachot, and we don't mosif, we don't add on them. Ve'ein maftirim b'navi, and we don't say haftarah from navi. Furthermore, hapoteach v'hachotem b'Torah mevarech lefanea ul'acharea. And the person that begins and ends, the person with the first aliyah and the person with the last aliyah, they'll make a biracha before and afterwards. Berasheh chadashim v'cholo shel moed kor'in arba'a. On Rosh Chodesh or Chol HaMoed, we have 4 aliyot. Ein pochatin mehen ve'ein mosifin aleihem. We don't do less than 4 aliyot. We don't do more than 4 aliyot. Ve'ein maftirim b'navi, and we do not say haftarah from navi. Hapoteach v'chotem, and the person that has the first aliyah and the person that has the last aliyah b'Torah, mivarech lefanea ul'acharea, makes the biracha before and afterwards. Zeh haklal, this is the rule. Kol sheyesh bo musaf, anytime you have musaf. Ve'eno yom tov, and it's not yom tov, meaning you're allowed to do work, you're allowed to do melacha. Kor'in arba'a, you read 4 aliyot, such like we said before, like Chol HaMoed, right? It's not Yom Tov, meaning to say that you're allowed to do work, you turn on lights. So in that case, you read 4 aliyot. But Yom Tov, when it's Yom Tov, when you cannot do any melacha, you say Chamisha, 5 aliyot. By Yom Kippurim, Shish'a, Yom Kippur, you say 6 aliyot. By Shabbat, Shiv'ah, on Shabbat, you read 7 aliyot. And Ein Pochatin Mehem, you don't do less than that. Aval Mosifin Aleihen, but you're actually allowed to add onto them. So for example, Shabbat, you could have 8 aliyot. Umaftirim b'Navi, and you read from Navi. And Hapoteach v'Achotem b'Torah mevarech lefanei lacharei. And the person that's poteach, he starts, v'Achotem, and the person that ends b'Torah, that says the last aliyah, they make a biracha beforehand, lefanea, beforehand, ul'acharei, and afterwards. The Gemara begins. Tana, we learned in a braita, ma she'en kein b'Torah, which is not so b'Torah, meaning, we said in the Mishnah that you could read the Megillah standing, sitting, whatever you want, but when it comes to Torah, we're not allowed to do that. Ma she'en kein b'Torah. We cannot do that for Torah. Torah, you only read standing. Min hani mili, from where do we know these words? From where do we know that you have to read the Torah standing? Who says? So Amar Rabbi Abohu said, to Amar Kra, that's written in a pasuk, that Hashem said to Moshe, V'ata po amod imadi, you here stand with me. So Hashem is talking to Moshe and saying, hey Moshe, stand and learn with me. So Hashem stood and Moshe stood. So from here we see, when they were learning Torah, reading Torah, they were standing. From here we see that we should stand also when we read the Torah. V'amar Rabbi Abohu, and Rabbi Abohu says, Il malei mikra katuv, if the pasuk were not written, efshar le'omaro, it would be impossible to say it. Kaviyachol, it's as if af HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'amidah, it seems that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is standing as well. Because Hashem says, you stand together with me. Meaning, Moshe is standing and Hashem is standing. But we have a problem with that because we generally don't like to connect any sort of body with Hashem. Because Hashem, we know, in lo guf, he doesn't have a body. So we try not to normally say that, but here the pasuk says it. Ve'amar Rabbi Abohu, and Rabbi Abohu says, Minayin l'Rav, from where do we know that a rabbi shelo yeshev al gabe mita, should not sit on a bed, v'yishaneh letalmido, and teaches.
Good morning, all powers.
Right. So we said the Rebbe should not sit on a mitah, right, either a bed or a chair, and teaches talmidim al gabe karka, and his talmidim are sitting on the floor. Shnei Emar, because the pasuk says, "V'ata po amod imadi." You here stand with me, meaning Moshe stood and God stood. God was teaching Moshe, and they were doing the same thing. Same thing. When a Rebbe teaches a talmid, so both should stand, or both should sit on a chair, or both should sit on the floor. They should be equals. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis learned in Ebraita, Miyamot Moshe, from the days of Moshe, V'ad Rabban Gamliel, until the days of Rabban Gamliel, Lo hayu lemedim Torah ela me'umad. They only would learn Torah standing. That's how they learned. Mishamed Rabban Gamliel, but after Rabban Gamliel passed away, Yarad choli le'olam, sickness or weakness came down to the world. V'hayu lemedim Torah miyushav, and they only learned Torah sitting. V'hainu ditanan, and this is what we learned in the Mishnah. Mishamed Rabban Gamliel, when Rabban Gamliel passed away, batel kvod Torah, the kavod, the honor of Torah stopped. Katuv echad omer, one. So it says that Katuv echad omer, one pasuk says, ve'eshev bahar, and I sat on the mountain. V'katuv echad omer, and one pasuk says, va'anochi amarati bahar, and I stood on the mountain. So we know when Hashem gave the Torah to Moshe, it says here one pasuk that Moshe stood and one that he sat. So which is it? Amar Rav said, Omed v'lomed. Moshe would stand and learn new topics. Yoshev v'shoneh, and he would sit down and review the other topics. That's why one pasuk says stood and one pasuk says stand. Rabbi Chanina says, Lo omed v'lo yoshev, ela socheh. He didn't stand and he didn't sit, rather he leaned. So Rabbi Yochanan says the third opinion of why we have those two psukim that seem to be saying two opposite things. Ein yeshiva ela lashon akava. Yeshiva means only akava, that he was prevented. Right? Remember, boys, when you have ein and ela, it's a double negative, it makes a positive. So it means only. So it means that he stayed there. Shene'emar, as the pasuk says, "Vateshvu bakadesh yamim rabim." When it says, "and the Jews were in the midbar," it says that they teshvu, they sat there. But it doesn't mean sat; it means they remained there for a long time. So that's what the pasuk means when it says that Moshe sat. It doesn't mean that he sat at Har Sinai. It means that he remained there for a long time. But when he learned, he stood up. Rava says, this is the fourth opinion. Rakot me'umad v'kashot miyushav. Rakot, rach. The easy things Moshe stood for, but the difficult things that he had to put more thinking into, miyushav, he sat down.